Okay, so because I think the video needs a bit of commentary and a bit of discussion, I'm just going to go over basically how I usually write any essay. So this is applicable to any essay that I'm going to write, probably, and hopefully give you some tips as well on how you can write your essays in the future and hopefully help you in that way. So, I mean, the first thing that I do usually, something that you don't see in this video, is that I read through the instructions thoroughly to make sure that I understand them to a high level, so that I know what's expected of me. I usually don't read the criteria that we have, so like what's required for an A level and such, because I think that's usually clear from the instructions alone. The criteria don't really change. If I'm really desperate, I might actually read the criteria, but usually not. Another thing that you might see me doing a lot in my text is that I usually add a lot of comments in Google Docs, that is, and that's for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, it's possibly to just put in my sources, so the sources that I might use in the future. So if I've copied an entire paragraph or rewritten an entire paragraph, then I usually add that source, which happens sometimes, but I usually rewrite it so that it's in my own words and including additional ideas and commentary. But it's usually to just put in my sources or any questions that I might have. And I think that's really important. It's sort of a self-peer review in a way. So, firstly, I just write everything. So I just write without constraint, really. If I get stuck, I try to write something else. I just continue on writing as much text and as many ideas as I can. Maybe a bit underdeveloped because I don't have the information, but in a way, I just try to write as much as I can, and then I go over it and try to criticize what I've written. So I'll be like, I'll add comments like, why is this? Or can you expand on your ideas here? Explain why. Add a source here. How many people? There's a million trillion questions you can ask yourself, and these will definitely improve your text just by reading and adding comments, I think. And that way you can sort of divide up the labor. You read through your text, add comments, and you strictly do that. Then you will go back and fix all the comments, or slowly fix all the comments, instead of just adding a comment, fixing the comment, adding a comment, fixing the comment, because that will tire you out really quickly, I feel, at least on my part. And another thing I do really is that I usually do a lot of peer review, and I think that's something important that all high school students, and anyone really in school should do, is just to do peer review. You find someone with the same amount of ambition, the same level of ambitions as you have, just so that you can find things in each other's texts that you might have not otherwise found. So for me, this is like, I usually write really long sentences without noticing it, or I usually have like small spelling mistakes is what people comment on my text usually, and these are very easy to spot when you're reading someone else's text. So therefore, it's easier for you to actually fix these minor errors that might have otherwise pulled or dragged down your grade. And I think this, you don't have to get peer review from maybe the smartest person or the A-level student or something, as long as you find someone with the same level of commitment as you have. So if you add 5 comments, then maybe they should add 5 comments. It shouldn't be like you're writing 50 comments and they are writing 5. That's not really fair. And of course, you'll have to judge the quality of the comments as well. If they're just calling you out on punctuation, then that's maybe not as fair. It's not as worthwhile as commenting on the actual content of the text. But doing this with a friend really, really helps. And I think to comment on how I actually write my text, I think you can see it here. I usually just write a lot, as I said, a lot of bullshit, really, a lot of BS. things I don't fact check, just things from Wikipedia, things from sources that maybe aren't the most reliable, like random articles on random news sites. And I just write. I just continue putting in this information, and then focus on fixing it later. So as you can see, I don't focus on my MLA or APA or whatever citation system I use in the beginning. I don't put in my in-text citations. I just put the sources in a comment, if even that, and then just continue writing. And I think that's a good way to just, get a lot of information. And then if you write too much, that's just better. Because if you write too much, then you can remove the parts that might have otherwise not been the best. So that's happened to me. I in the beginning I might have thought, or I might think, this paragraph is one of my strongest. But by the time I've written my 4,000 words in my 2,000 word essay, I actually find that argument rather lackluster comparing to the other arguments that I have. And then of course I remove that, and then I can focus more on specific arguments. Although you can fall into the trap of writing a lot about or a small amount of text on a lot of things instead of going into depth in specific topics, which sometimes it's better to just focus on 3 things, but I would just say continue writing regardless. It's also like a good sort of meditation to just write sometimes, at least on my part. On how I usually like in the environment that I get into when I study is that I usually, of course, I eat well, I exercise. That's always really important, I feel. I used to try to run whenever I have the chance, and I usually have a water bottle or a glass of water next to me so that I can drink and stay hydrated, because I feel that my brain works better when I'm hydrated. Same as if I eat, I usually have a rather strict schedule of when I go and eat my meals, almost like a break time. And throughout the video you'll also see me switch to and listen to some music. And for me this is rather important because I'm sitting in the living room, so there's usually sometimes quite a bit of noise, at least in the background. So in that case I usually have to put on this, like currently I listen to Bill Evans jazz or just classic lo-fi. And I think this can also, if you listen to this sort of white noise music, can get you in a really good study mood, and you can study more without feeling as fatigued. So usually, or before, when I listen to music with lyrics or didn't listen to music at all, I could maybe spend an hour just studying. But now when I listen to like lo-fi or Bill Evans jazz, that is, I can put in like 1 hour 40-minute sessions and feel just as the same level of exhaustion as I might have an hour session earlier when I listened to different kinds of music. So I think that's definitely one of the more important things. And if you can sit in a room where it's more quiet, then that's also preferred, of course. I would say that, I usually don't get a lot of notifications because I'm not really that popular, I would say, or I don't spend a lot of time typing to people, so I don't get a lot of messages myself. But I always try to put away my phone so that it doesn't get in the way when I get studying. So in the worst cases, in the worst scenario, I usually put on airplane mode, and that's when I get like, if I really feel like I need to study and notifications still seem to bother me, or I'm waiting for a response from someone, then I put on airplane mode, put away the phone so I don't mind it, and then I can respond once I'm on one of my breaks. And I think these breaks are really important. I also had the tendency before to eat some sugar, some dark chocolate sometimes, or just any sugary thing that I could get my hand on when I was starting to write my essay, because I think in that way you can get your sort of creative juices flowing. If you're sort of high on sugar as well, if you're just typing out words, seeing what sticks, that has helped me in the past as well, although maybe I wouldn't recommend it too much. And another tip I have, of course, is use Grammarly. It's good. It fixes your spelling mistakes, things that might have otherwise been noticed by your peer review comrade. It's just better to use Grammarly. I mean, you don't even have to have premium. You can just use the normal one. It still fixes your punctuation and some of the wording. I don't know, so some of the words that doesn't fit in, and you can also find synonyms really easily with Grammarly. And I mean, that's really all the comments I have. I would also say that it's really easy to, or actually, yeah, it's really easy to fix your sources afterwards. So just write your entire text. I mean, you can put in the sources in the comments, in these comments as well. But in general, just write, and then you can check the information later on. So, for example, if I took a lot of information from Wikipedia, of course I'm not going to use the information from Wikipedia. I'm going to go and check the sources that Wikipedia used, because these are usually rather reliable, actually, as long as they're not locked for the public, which is sometimes the case. But otherwise, I try to just look at reliable sources, so JSTOR, Google Scholar, any like factual text, or even books sometimes that I can get my hands on, because I think these are really an extra boon for your article, possibly. And if your teacher sees that you have these in your text, then they will maybe see, oh, this student has actually done good research, rather than just having like 3 sources. And I will also say that more sources is usually better, but once again, as long as you're using good, reliable sources as well. And what else? To comment on the actual text that I have in front of me now, I did get a rather good feedback on the text that I'm currently writing in the video. I think it was upwards of an A or B, high B. I would say in general that I'm a B student with high ambitions. That's usually my motto. But I will try and put the feedback that I received from my teacher on screen, and hopefully that will help you connect the dots and sort of what I did well. I will also try and put my text, the full text that I wrote, in the description or just somewhere, so that you, or possibly I in the future, can access it and look back at this. Because I was rather proud of this article, and I think my teacher was as well. And I think the last thing I want to bring up is that you can have subheaders or subtitles, or whatever you want to call them. They help you center your ideas. They help you focus better on your arguments. So instead of spreading them out and not writing what the argument's supposed to be about, just write like a subheader and then focus on that specific topic and try not to stray away from it too much. I mean, that's the majority of the things I have. I mean, I would also say that you can add like small, tiny details. Always check the citation system you're using. So if you're using Grammarly, then, or not Grammarly. If you're using MLA, then you go and you check so that you have a correct MLA citation. I usually put mine in just a citation generator. Of course, check the citation generator and add access date if you need access date or stuff like that. If you're using EasyBib or Citation Machine, because I know EasyBib and Citation Machine doesn't add the access date. But I mean, also just add a title page, I would say, is my new favorite thing. Title page numbers with my surname. These just add a whole new level of academicness, or if you want to call it that, a whole new level of academic writing, and it's just so satisfying seeing your academic text in the Google Docs like previews, when you see 4 of your title pages in the preview in a row, and they all just look beautiful. Really, they look really academic. You feel proud of yourselves, like, wow, I actually wrote this academic essay. And you will be able to look back at those texts later on in life if you want to, if you didn't delete them. and feel proud, hopefully. And of course, I mean, one of the more important things that I do is that I try not to procrastinate too much. Of course it happens, I try not to. This text took maybe 4 to 7 hours to do in total. So I would say just spend, if you have extra time, start writing a bit on your essay. It's much better to start a week earlier, and then you have a couple of fresh new eyes looking at the text each morning, a new person, even if you want to say that, looking at the text each day. Well, that was everything for me. I really hope the tips helped you, or helped me if it is me that is listening in the future. Hey, me. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully the tips helped you a bit. If not, well, go watch some cat videos or something. I don't know. Thank you for today, and good night.